Captain Elias Vance stood at the edge of the observation deck, his arms crossed behind his back. The blackness of space stretched endlessly outside the reinforced glass, dotted with distant stars. But today his focus was fixed on one world, Zereth Prime. The planet shimmered like a blue and purple gem beneath him. Clouds of silver mist swirled across massive continents. It was beautiful and silent. Too silent. Vance turned to his crew. Still nothing? Lieutenant Mira, his comms officer, shook her head. No response to any of our hails, Captain. Not even automated systems. That was unusual. The Zereth Dominion was one of the oldest alien empires in the galaxy. Their power was legendary. Their technology advanced. But for over 1,000 years they had isolated themselves from the rest of the galaxy. Until now, 3 weeks ago, a Zereth probe entered human space. It carried one message: send the Flameborn. No one knew what it meant. The word didn't exist in any known language. But the message was clear. They were calling for a human. Only one, and now Elias Vance stood here. Above their world, aboard the Resolve, Earth's most advanced diplomatic vessel, and still silence. "Captain," said Mira, eyes wide. "Something's coming. Massive ship, rising from the surface." Outside the window, the clouds split. A black hand-gold vessel rose slowly into orbit. It was shaped like a crescent blade and 3 times the size of the Resolve. Energy shimmered across its hull. "No weapons powered," Myra said, "but it's locking on. To us." The bridge lights dimmed. A beam of soft white light scanned through the room, and a voice filled the ship deep, echoing, almost musical. "Flameborn, you are summoned, alone. The Queen awaits." The crew turned to Vance. He frowned. "Absolutely not," Commander Raj said. "It's a trap," maybe Vance replied, "but maybe it's the start of something bigger. You can't go alone. I'm the only one they asked for." Vance looked out the window again. Prep the drop shuttle. 10 minutes later, Vance stood inside a silver chamber aboard the Zereth ship. The air smelled like lavender and hot metal. Patterns of light danced across the walls. He wore a simple diplomatic uniform, no weapons, just a translator patch and a personal shield generator under his coat. 2 Zereth guards stood silently by the entrance, and they were tall, slender, and covered in curved armor that shimmered like liquid obsidian. Their faces were hidden behind featureless masks. Without a word, they guided him down a long hallway. The floor was soft beneath his boots, like walking on moss. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the walls. They stopped before a tall doorway covered in glowing runes. The door slid open with a whisper. Inside was a massive circular chamber. Pillars of crystal reached up into a high ceiling. Floating orbs of light drifted like fireflies. In the center stood a raised platform, and on it the Queen. Vance stepped forward and stopped. She was magnificent. The alien Queen stood over 7 feet tall, her skin a pale silver that shimmered with every movement. Her long black hair floated behind her like it had a life of its own. She wore a flowing robe laced with glowing blue veins. A crown of living crystal circled her head. Their eyes met. Her golden irises widened. Her breath caught, and then she knelt. The guards gasped. The lights in the room dimmed. Elias Vance stood frozen. A queen of one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy had just dropped to her knees before him. She placed her hand to her chest. Her voice trembled with something between awe and fear. "Flameborn, you have returned." Vance blinked. "Excuse me?" She raised her head slowly. "Forgive me, Dyer, of the Zereth Dominion, Keeper of the Crystal Thrones, Warden of the Silent Flame." He nodded slowly.
"Captain Elias Vance."
"Human Federation. I'm not sure why I'm here." Gralia stood, her movements graceful. She walked toward him and stopped a few feet away. Up close, her presence was overwhelming. Ancient, regal, powerful. "You do not know?" She asked softly.
"Know what?"
She looked at the symbol on his neck, the insignia of the old Earth Defense Corps. Her eyes welled with emotion. "We waited 12,000 years," she whispered. Vance frowned. 12,000. Garalia gestured to a floating orb. It projected a series of images, a massive battle in space, ships shaped like beasts tearing through stars. Giant humanoid machines piloted by humans unleashing devastating energy. We were not always alone, she said. Once the stars burned with war, the first flame your people fought against the Devourers. You created the Star Forges. You wielded fire and light that bent reality, and then you vanished. More images, human fleets disintegrating, a final explosion, and then silence. We were your allies, Garalia continued. And your children? You gave us minds, freed us from our creators. And when the final flame went out, we hid. We buried the past. But the prophecy said you would return. She stepped closer and bowed her head. You are the last born of Earth, flame-born, the one destined to bring light or ruin. Vance stared at the images.
You think I'm some chosen one?
Garalia's voice was firm. You carry the spark in your blood. Our relics woke when you entered orbit. The ancient codes accepted your voice. Vance stepped back, heart racing. This couldn't be real. He was a soldier, a diplomat. He's not a god. I'm just a man, he said. I'm no savior. You may not believe it, Garalia said, but the galaxy already does. The orb changed again. Alien messages from distant worlds. Signals intercepted by human probes. Words repeated in dozens of languages. The Flameborn walks again. He has returned. The Starforged child breathes. Garalia looked into his eyes. We are not asking you to save us. Only to remember, to learn who you are, before the darkness wakes once more. Vance looked at the swirling stars above. Something inside him stirred. Fear, yes, but also curiosity. A pull, a calling. He clenched his fists. All right, he said. It show me. Captain Elias Vance followed Queen Garalia through a tall, glowing corridor inside the palace of the Xyrith's dominion. Strange symbols pulsed on the walls. The light seemed to move with them, shifting, as if it had a mind of its own. He had so many questions, but for now, he stayed silent. His thoughts were heavy. Part of him still couldn't believe what was happening. Less than an hour ago, he was just a man on a diplomatic mission. Now he was being called the Flameborn, a figure from a lost past. Garalia stopped before a large metal door shaped like a triangle. She placed her hand against the center. A golden light scanned her palm, and the door slid open with a deep hum. Come, she said. Vance stepped inside. The room was massive, circular, and silent. The floor was glass, and beneath it, he could see a slowly turning model of the galaxy. In the center stood a raised platform with a glowing control pillar all around. The room were floating stones, covered in writing and ancient images. This is the Hall of Memory, Garalia said. It holds the truth your kind has forgotten. She walked to one of the floating stones and touched it. A beam of light shot out and showed a vision in the air. A time long ago. Vance saw tall, glowing cities floating in space, human soldiers. In black armor walked with pride. Gigantic ships shaped like wings moved between stars. Some looked like living machines. These are humans, Vance asked, eyes wide. Garalia nodded. Yes, you were the first flame, the creators of balance. You ruled not with cruelty, but with power and honor. The image changed. Now there was war. Dark creatures made of black smoke and metal swarmed across the stars. Their ships twisted reality as they moved. Planets cracked under their power. Even the human machines began to fall. The Devourers, she whispered. They came from beyond the edge of our galaxy. They were not like anything we knew. They fed on stars, minds, and memories. Vance saw more images, battles where thousands died, where entire solar systems were erased. Humanity fought hard. They used powerful machines called Star Forges, which built weapons and armor in seconds. Some humans even merged with the machines, becoming something more. But even that wasn't enough. The war lasted centuries, Garalia said. Your ancestors held the line alone. No one else had the strength. We were too young, too weak. Vance looked at one image. A lone human standing before a creature the size of a moon. The man raised a blade of pure energy, even as fire and shadows closed in. Then the screen went dark. "What happened?" Vance asked. Garelia's voice became softer. "You vanished. The Devourers were destroyed. Or sealed away. We don't know. But after the final battle, the humans were gone. All of them. Your cities fell silent. Your ships drifted empty. Some say you burned yourselves out to win. Others believe you've sealed yourselves in time." She turned to face him. But one thing remained: the flame-born prophecy. It said that when the Devourers stirred again, a child of Earth would rise. One born far from war, soldier of peace, but with fire in his soul. Vance stepped back. "I'm just a captain. I lead missions, talk to aliens, keep the peace, that's all." Garelia stepped closer. "Your DNA woke the oldest codes in our vaults. You carry something ancient inside you, something no human has shown in 12,000 years. Suddenly, one of the floating stones glowed bright red. A voice echoed in the room. Old, broken, but powerful. Flameborn detected, vault unlocking. The floor shook. A section of the wall opened, revealing a staircase leading downward. "Look surprised. This has never happened," she said. "It was sealed for eons." Vance looked at the stairs. A deep feeling in his chest told him to go. He didn't know why. Without waiting, he started walking down. The steps led him into a smaller chamber. This one was darker, colder. At the center stood a tall pedestal. On it rested an object, a small cube, no bigger than his hand, black and smooth. Glowing faintly with orange light, he reached out. As his fingers touched the cube, it came to life. Lines of golden energy lit up. A voice spoke directly into his mind, Starforged identity confirmed. "Welcome, Elias Vance, Flameborn level. Tier 1, do you wish to activate Protocol Emberfall?" Vance stepped back in shock. "What? What is this?" Euralia had followed him, her eyes wide with wonder. "It speaks to you." "Yes, it knows my name." The cube floated into the air. A soft beam scanned Vance from head to toe. Partial memory access unlocked, displaying the trial. The room changed. Now they stood in the middle of a battlefield. But it wasn't real. It was a hologram, a memory. Around them, human and alien soldiers fought side by side. Gigantic machines hovered in the sky. A younger version of Shiralia was there, barely a child. Being protected by armored warriors, in the middle of it all stood a man who looked strangely like Vance, not the same, but similar. He wielded a blazing sword and shouted commands. Then, silence. The memory ended. Shirella turned to him, breath shaking. "That man, he was the first Flameborn. He died protecting me when I was a child. And now, you appear with his face. His voice, his spark." Vance didn't know what to say, but something inside him whispered, "This is your path." They returned to the throne chamber. Shiralia summoned her high council. A group of 9 alien nobles entered, tall, elegant, and clearly powerful. They looked at Vance with a mix of curiosity and doubt. One of them, an elder named Solkar, stepped forward. "We do not trust this prophecy. The Flameborn is a myth." Another Lady Valise nodded. "Even if it is true, how do we know he will not bring ruin instead of light?" Shiralia raised a hand. "He has awakened the cube, Ozyrith has done. This in 12 millennia. Vance stepped forward. "I'm not asking for your trust. I don't even know if I believe all of this yet, but I saw what's coming. Those Devourers. If they're waking up, the galaxy's in danger. You need help. I want to help." Solkar narrowed his eyes. "Then prove it," Velis added. "Him face the trial of flame. If he is truly the Flameborn, he will survive." Garelia frowned. "That trial is deadly. He is not trained." But Vance nodded. "I'll do it." Everyone stared. "Why?" Garelia asked. "Because if I walk away now, and the galaxy burns, I'll never forgive myself." That night, as he prepared for the trial. Vance stood on a balcony overlooking the glowing city of Zyrith Prime. He looked up at the stars. Somewhere, out there, something ancient and dark was waking, and somehow, for reasons he still didn't understand, he was the key to stopping it. His hands clenched into fists. Tomorrow, he would face the trial and find out if he was truly the Flameborn, or just a man lost in someone else's legend. Captain Elias Vance stood at the edge of a great stone platform, staring down into the hollow pit below. The trial chamber was deep underground, hidden beneath the royal palace. The air smelled like ash and metal. Red lights flickered on the walls. Something ancient was sleeping here, but not for long. The trial of flame had not been used in thousands of years. Goralia stood beside him, her silver skin glowing faintly in the torchlight. Her face was calm, but her golden eyes were filled with worry. "You still have time to turn back," she said softly. Vance shook his head. "If I walk away now, your people won't believe me, and neither will I." He looked down at his hands. Since touching the cube, strange things had started happening. He could sense energy in the air. Sometimes he could feel the heartbeat of the ship itself. Something was waking up inside him, something old. A loud clang echoed across the chamber. The members of the Zyrith High Council arrived on a floating platform, watching from above, like judges. The oldest Solkar raised a long staff. "The trial begins," he said. "Let the flame test his soul." With a deep rumble, the stone platform. Under Vance's feet split open. Staircase appeared, spiraling downward into darkness. Vance took a breath and stepped in. The staircase led him to a circular chamber, made of black rock. In the center floated a glowing sphere of fire, not hot but warm, like a living presence. Around the walls were carvings of human warriors, ancient battles, and strange machines lost to time. Then the fire spoke, not with words, but with thoughts, images, and memories. "You who claim the flame, face the past." Suddenly Vance's body froze, his vision blurred. He fell to his knees as a wave of pain shot through his skull. A moment later, he was no longer in the chamber. He stood in the middle of a battlefield. The sky was red. Broken ships burned in orbit. All around him, humans fought monstrous creatures made of shadows and metal. The Devourers. Vance looked down. His body was different. Taller, stronger. He wore sleek black armor covered in glowing orange veins. A sword of fire sat in his hand. He wasn't Elias Vance anymore. He was someone else, warrior from the past, and the flame wanted him to remember. Memory played out like it was real. A massive devourer crashed from the sky. The ground shook as it landed. Its body was covered in shifting armor and eyes that blinked without mercy. Vance ran toward it, leaping over fire and debris. He moved fast, faster than he thought possible. His sword clashed with the beast's claws. Sparks flew. He spun, dodged, and drove the blade deep into its chest. The monster screamed. Then, darkness. Vance woke up, gasping back in the trial chamber. Sweat dripped down his face. His heart pounded like a drum. Gorelia's voice echoed from above. He passed the first flame. Few make it that far, but it wasn't over. The fire floated higher. The air thickened. The chamber began to shake. Second vision hit him. Now he stood in a ruined city, a massive tower burning in the distance. Humans and aliens fled from falling debris. And in the center of it all stood a woman, cloaked in darkness, her body made of black flame. She turned and looked at him. Vance felt something twist in his chest. She looked human, but her eyes were empty. She raised her hand. Shadows swirled and shot toward him like spears. Vance barely raised his arm in time. A glowing shield appeared, absorbing the blast. He rushed forward, struck with his blade, but the woman caught it with her bare hand. "You are not ready," she whispered. The world exploded in light. When Vance opened his eyes, he was on the floor of the chamber. Smoke rose from his clothes. His body hurt everywhere. But he was still alive. Goralia floated down to his side. The second trial, it shows the future, or a possible one. Who Was that? Vance asked, coughing. We don't know. She said, some say the Devourers left seeds behind echoes. Others believe it's one of us, twisted by the dark. Solkar's voice boomed above. The trial is complete. He did not fall. The flame is real. The council murmured. Some were impressed, some were afraid. Vance stood, but stronger than before. The fire orb dimmed, then flew into his chest. It vanished, but the warmth remained. Shiralia's eyes widened. It chose you. What does that mean? She looked at him with new understanding. It means you are the key. The flame has accepted your soul. You are now one of the Starforged. Later that night, Vance sat alone in a crystal garden on the edge of the palace. Alien flowers glowed softly around him. He held the cube in. His hand, it was quiet now, but still warm. He stared at the stars. He had seen death, war, and a woman of flame and shadow. He had felt the pain of ancient warriors and the fear of future destruction. And somehow, deep down, it all felt real. Too real. Goralia appeared beside him, silent. You did what no one else could, she said. I don't feel stronger, he said. You are. The fire only awakens in those with purpose. Vance looked. At her what now? She paused. There's something you need to see. She led him to a hidden chamber, deep in the palace's vaults. Inside was a massive coffin-shaped machine, covered in dust and old cables. Symbols on its surface matched. The ones on the cube. Goralia placed her hand on it. This belonged to the first Flameborn. It's the one you saw in your vision. Vance stepped closer. As he touched the surface, the machine lit up, and inside, he saw armor. Not just any armor. Starforged armor. Sleek, glowing, and shaped perfectly to fit him. The last suit, Goralia whispered. It waited for your return. The next day, the High Council held a ceremony. News spread across the Zereth Dominion. The Flameborn lives. Other alien species sent envoys. Some were hopeful, others were afraid. Vance stood on a platform in the capital wearing the ancient armor. It was light but strong. Energy moved through it with each breath. Felt like an extension of him. Goralia stood beside him, her voice echoing across the city. This man is not just a visitor. He's a spark from the past, a light for the future. The Flameborn has returned, and with him, our hope. The crowd bowed. Vance looked at them, then up at the stars, somewhere out. There, the darkness was growing. But he was no longer just a man. He was a weapon, a protector. The flame. Captain Elias Vance stood at the helm of the star cruiser Aurelian, now a Gesno, a symbol of the Zereth Dominion. The star-forged armor clung to his body like it had always belonged there. It responded to his every movement, thought, and instinct. Across the galaxy, news had already spread like wildfire. The Flameborn has returned. Some alien civilizations cheered. Some grew afraid. Some watched silently from their cold thrones. But not all were waiting. Some were already moving. As the Aurelian entered deep space, Vance watched the stars outside the window with focused eyes. Goralia stood beside him. You said there were human ruins beyond the Dark Rift? He asked. She nodded. A world lost during the last war. We call it HFY. Our ancestors said no ship should go near it. The silence there is unnatural. Vance folded his arms. That's where I need to go. If I'm supposed to be Flameborn, I need to understand what that truly means. Not just visions, not just armor. The real history. Goralia lowered her voice. Then prepare yourself. Carithphia was once a human fortress world. If anything survived there, it will not be kind. The journey took 2 days at high warp. As the ship neared the dead system, the stars dimmed. Strange pressure filled the air. The crew grew tense. Even the lights flickered without reason. Vance walked through the ship, touching the walls. Could feel the energy. The ship was alive in ways others couldn't sense. The flame inside him reacted to this place, this forgotten space. It felt familiar, but cold. At last, they arrived. The planet HFY spun slowly below them. It was gray, covered in black storms and broken countenance. Giant metal ruins stretched across its surface like skeletons. No signal, no sound, no life, and yet something called to him. They landed near a mountain-sized ruin shaped like a giant ring. Burned-out ships floated in the sky, stuck in orbit like frozen memories. Vance, Garalia, and a small team of guards stepped into the ash-covered air. The land was silent. No wind, no movement. The team moved through the ruins slowly. Every wall was carved with strange human symbols. Vance could read some of them, though he never learned the language. He ran his hand across a shattered console. Suddenly, the flame inside him pulsed. Memory struck. He saw humans walking these halls. Engineers, soldiers, a woman in a silver coat working on a glowing map of the galaxy. Then darkness, panic, red lights, the ground shaking the last moments. He snapped. Back to the present. Jorelia was watching him. You saw it again, didn't you? She asked. He nodded. This place it remembers. Deeper in the ruins, they found a sealed door covered in black stone. It had no opening, no lock. Just one circular panel in the center. Vance touched it. The stone crumbled, away like sand. The door opened. Inside was a chamber unlike anything they had seen before. Hundreds of pods lined the walls tall, glowing, humming faintly inside each. One were people, humans, sleeping, unmoving, but alive. Jorelia gasped. Stasis chambers. Vance walked among them, heart racing. Some of the faces looked like him. Not exactly, but the same features, same spirit. A soft voice echoed from the center of the room. Flame-born DNA confirmed. Reactivation in progress. A hologram appeared, a woman in a silver coat, the same one from his vision. Welcome, Elias Vance, she said. If you are seeing this, then we have failed. The Devourers were not truly destroyed. We sealed them. But sealing is not ending. We've built this vault to preserve the best of us. Our minds, our knowledge, our soldiers, and you. The message paused. You were created as a contingency, spark in the dark, our last hope. If the fire returned to you, then the war is not over. The message ended. Vance stood in silence. His heart pounded. He turned to Zoralia. They knew this day would come. I'm not just a symbol, I'm part of something much, much bigger. Suddenly the ground shook. Alarms blared. The vault lights turned red. One of the guards shouted, "Something's coming." They rushed to the surface. In the sky, black shapes appeared, dozens of them, long, sharp, and alive. Devourer scouts, Zoralia cursed. They followed us here. Get back to the ship, Vance yelled. The guards opened fire. Energy bolts lit up the sky. The Devourers swooped like shadows, breaking the air with sonic booms. Vance activated his star-forged armor, glowed with bright orange light. The sword of flame appeared in his hand with a single thought. He leaped forward. His body moved faster than ever before. He slashed through the first creature in a single strike. Fire exploded from the wound. Another Devourer lunged. He rolled under it, stabbed up, and the creature screamed. Zoralia fought beside him with a long spear of light. Her guards covered their retreat, falling one by one as the enemy pushed harder. Back to the vault, Vance yelled.
Ow.
They want. What's inside? Inside the vault, the pods began to open. One by one, the ancient humans woke. They were weak but alive. One of them, a tall man with gray hair and glowing eyes, looked at Vance with recognition. You're the spark, he said. The Flameborn. We remember. Vance nodded. Help me protect this place. We're under attack. The man nodded. We will fight. One last time. Together they stood at the mouth of the vault. Vance, Garalia, the last soldiers of a forgotten age, and the Devourers came in waves. But this time, humanity wasn't alone. The fire had returned. Hours later, as the smoke cleared, Vance stood among the ruins. Bodies of blackened creatures lay in the dust. The vault was saved. For now, Zoralia sat nearby, tending to the wounded. The gray-haired man approached Vance. We are few, but our minds hold everything. Weapons, knowledge, history. If the Devourers are waking again, we must prepare. Vance nodded. Then, let's begin. Back aboard the Aurelian, the mood was tense, but hopeful. Vance sent a message across the stars. To all who hear this, the darkness is rising. But so is the flame. The old war is not over, but this time, we will fight together. We are the light. We are the line. We are humanity. The galaxy was no longer quiet. The Devourers had awakened. Their black ships tore through systems, spreading fear and destruction. Worlds fell. Cities vanished. Thousands of lives were lost in hours. But this time, humanity was not hiding. This time, the flame had returned. Captain Elias Vance stood at the center of the command chamber aboard the Aurelian, now upgraded with ancient human technology. The armor on his body shined with golden fire. His eyes glowed faintly. The flame inside him was stronger than ever. Soralia stood beside him, calm but sharp. The reports are clear. The Devourers have formed a hive fleet. It's moving. Straight for the heart of the Zyrith Dominion. How long? Vance asked. 3 days. He looked at the star map. Enemy ships covered it like a black stain. Then we take the fight to them first, Vance said. No more running. No more waiting. Vance and Shorelia had gathered allies. The Starforged sleepers from Kareth VA had shared their knowledge. Powerful weapons, shields, and energy systems. Other races began to join. The insect-like Tharn, the wolf-like Drakari, and the psychic Ilari offered fleets. Even those who once feared humans now saw the truth. Only together could they survive. A great alliance was formed, something the galaxy had not seen in 10,000 years. At the center of it stood a human. On the first day of battle, the Allied fleet appeared near the dying star of Varan-6. The High Fleet was already there, dark shapes like living metal beasts. Endless and numbered, Vance stood on the bridge, looking out the window. Behind him, thousands of ships prepared for war. We fight not just for Earth, he said, voice calm but strong. We fight for all free worlds. We fight because if we don't, no one will be left. Jurilia gave him a sharp nod. For the light. For the flame, Vance answered. The battle began. Explosions lit up the black void. Ships clashed. Fighters danced between burning wrecks. The Aurelian moved fast, striking from behind enemy lines, its new flame cannons piercing through Devourer. Vance leaped into action on boarding teams. With his sword of fire, he carved through enemy vessels, burning through walls and armor. Each kill fed the flame inside him. But for every enemy they destroyed, more arrived. It was not a war of ships. It was a war of will. And Elias Vance refused to bend. On the second day, the Hive Queen appeared. A massive creature, shaped like a floating fortress, came from deep space. It was covered in bone, armor, and glowing red eyes. Her mind reached across the battlefield. Spreading fear and confusion, many ships turned back. Some went mad, but Vance did not. He felt her voice in his mind. You are a mistake, she said. You carry ancient flame, but you cannot stop. What has already begun? Vance replied aloud, his voice steady. Then come and prove it. He launched toward the Queen ship with the strike team Jorelia, the old Starforged soldiers, and elite warriors from every allied race. This would be the final fight. Inside the Hive Queen ship, the walls moved like flesh. The air stank. Of rot and hate, monsters poured from the shadows, clawed fast and filled with hunger. Vance and his team fought with everything they had. Blades of fire, spears of light, psychic blasts, the power of many species united against one nightmare. But the deeper they went, the more twisted everything became. The Hive Queen was waiting. At last they reached the heart chamber. It was huge, filled with red light and long chains of dead worlds floating in tubes. At the center sat the Hive Queen, 20 meters tall, her body made of metal, bone, dark flame. She rose as Vance stepped forward. You were made to burn, she whispered. But fire dies. Everything dies. Vance raised his sword. Maybe. But not today. The battle began. The Hive Queen struck with massive claws and waves of shadow energy. Vance dodged, his armor glowing brighter than ever. Every strike he gave lit the chamber with light. Garalea fought beside him, her spear slicing through shadow. The other warriors held off the endless, minions pouring from every wall. But then the queen screamed. A shockwave of pure fear hit them. Some allies collapsed, others screamed. Shirellia fell to her knees. Vance stood alone. The queen struck him hard, sending him crashing into the wall. His armor cracked. The flame inside him flickered. She loomed over him, laughing. "What? You are just human." Vance looked up, blood in his mouth. "Yes," he whispered, and the flame exploded. The chamber shook. The sword of flame grew longer, brighter now, a beam of white-hot energy. The flame inside Vance had awakened fully. Not just a weapon, not just a tool, a living force. The queen screamed, striking again, but the blade cut through her arm like paper. Vance rose, glowing like a star. For every world you consumed, slashed. For every voice you silenced. Another strike. For every child you turned to ash. He drove the blade deep into her heart. For humanity, for life. The Hive Queen screamed one last time, and then exploded in fire. The shockwave tore through the ship. The rest of the team ran, pulling Vance's body out just in time. He was alive. Barely Jireya held him as the escape ship flew back toward the fleet. Below them, the Hive ship collapsed into dust and across the stars. The Devourers began to retreat. The war wasn't over completely, but something had changed. The Hive had lost its queen. The allied races, once divided, were now one force, and Vance the Flameborn had proven what no one had dared believe. Humanity was not extinct. It was legend. Weeks later, a new Council of United Races met on a floating city above Earth's ruins. Earth was gone, but soon to be reborn. The vaults of ancient human knowledge were now open. New ships, medicine, energy sources, gifts from the past to build the future. Shirellia stood beside Vance, wearing a white and gold version of his armor. A new flame for a new era. "You could lead them all, you know," she said. He smiled. "Slightly. That's not what I'm here for." "Then what are you?" He looked up at the stars. "A reminder," he said, "that humanity was never weak. We only needed a reason to rise." And so, the galaxy changed. Not ruled by humans, not ruled by any one species, but protected, watched, guided by a flame that would never go out. The legend of the Flameborn would live forever, not because he was the strongest, not because he was chosen, but because in the end, when darkness rose again, he stood up and he fought like a human, like a flame.